welcome back to another episode of the Light It Up Sports Podcast. Today we have on Delaware wide receiver Jourdan Townsend for episode 74. I'm super excited to have him on the show. I got to watch him play with some of my buddies last weekend in the tub against New Hampshire. He went for 122 yards, 13 catches, and a touchdown in a great game, a rain game. So you guys can imagine how probably hard the passing game was with the wind and the weather and the climate and stuff like that. But how you doing, Jourdan?
I'm doing great, man. I just want to say, thank you for having me on the show. And, I'm really excited to get into what we're going to get into tonight.
Yeah, I mean, again, you had a great game against New Hampshire. I just want to talk, I guess, start off with that because it's kind of recent. Going into that game, I mean, two top 25 ranked teams, right? A lot of people had New Hampshire in that game, just do their rankings and stuff like that. I know it's early in the season. You guys have played some pretty good teams and come out with some pretty good wins. But going into that game, kind of what were your thoughts when it comes to playing against another top 25 team and preparing for that game going into that Saturday game?
Yeah, I mean, watching film and seeing what they've been able to do this season, we knew that they were a very good team, kind of similar to us, the very hardworking, gritty football team that's going to, do a lot of the right things, that's not going to do things to beat themselves, not a lot of penalties. So kind of the mindset into the game was just, playing our game. We felt like we had better athletes. And if we did the things that we needed to do and not beat ourselves, then we'd have a good chance of winning that game. And that's what we did.
Yeah, and as I said before, I mean, you had a career game for yourself when it comes to receiving and 122 yards, 13 catches, a touchdown. And you're with a new quarterback this year, Brian O'Connor. But what would you say was clicking between you two guys that night where he was able to get you the ball that many times and, create that much momentum for the offense?
Yeah, I think after the first touchdown grab, I think that's where, things kind of started things got going. I think that was the first catch. I think the second catch was the post right after halftime. And I think after that, OC was just looking my way, and we were kind of just things were just clicking that night.
Yeah.
And he hit me, I think later on in the game down the sideline for a pretty deep catch. And that's things that we work on, all summer, leading up to the season. Even going back to Nolan, I've been with Nolan for 4 years, so we had a great connection. Because when I first got here, he was like the backup quarterback. So me and him took, every time that I was in practice, he took all the reps. So that was something that I wanted to get with, OC with over the summer, and as quickly as possible was just, trying to create this, connection and just trying to be that guy that always in the right spot, with a first year quarterback like that, sometimes, teams could throw different coverages and weird looks. So, trying to do my best to, make his job a little easier and make him more comfortable out there. So.
Yeah. And just a few games prior, you guys played against Penn State. I mean, historically one of the best defenses in college football. And I would assume there was a lot of film study and a lot of stuff going on preparing for that defense. But overall, what was kind of just the atmosphere like playing against Penn State? And honestly, I mean, you had a couple of catches. Again, they're one of the best defenses in college football. They're a good team, but I feel like it was really cool. I mean, I've tended to root for Penn State sometimes just because they're local and I'm a Giants fan, so Barkley and stuff. But overall, obviously having season tickets to Delaware, I was definitely pulling for you guys. But kind of what was that atmosphere like at PSU?
Oh, it was amazing. Going into that game, a lot of people didn't expect us to do much of anything. So one of the things that, I was trying to do was just take everything in. Not too many people get to say they played in front of 110,000 people. And honestly, like, it was probably the best atmosphere I'll ever play in. That first offensive snap for us was absolutely insane. The stadium was raw. I've never been in an atmosphere that loud in my life. And like I was like laughing. Like we had crowd noise like going into the game in practice, but they can only do so much. It's not 110,000 people.
That. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like that first snap, I literally felt like the ground was shaking. I was like, oh my gosh. And after that, kind of get used to it. And you kind of have to deal with it for 4 quarters. But yeah, no, it was a great atmosphere. I mean, I just wish that the game would have went a little bit better than it did. But I feel like that's a great learning lesson and probably the best defense we're going to face all year. So glad we got to see that early. And now we know that um, if we play great as offense, we're going to be hard to beat. So
Yeah, exactly. And I believe it just a game or maybe a game after a game prior, you had a catch that made it on SportsCenter top 10. It was a really great gab against Stony Brook, I believe, and it was number 7 on SportsCenter top 10. I mean, I don't think a lot of people in their life can say that they made it on SportsCenter top 10. So how was that for you after the game? Obviously, seeing the highlight all over social media, but then the next day seeing it on SportsCenter.
yeah, it was actually pretty crazy. My dad texted me. It was he was just like SC top 10. I'm like, what are you talking about? And one of my friends had posted it on Snapchat. I was like, oh, I had no idea. So I went on and I actually checked Facebook. A lot of people back home use Facebook, so I have that. I check that every here and then. And yeah, it kind of blew up on there first, and I just had the video. And I mean, to be honest, I didn't think like the catch was crazy. I mean, I feel like it was like a routine catch. Um,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
I think
guess
it was just
sports.
the way I think it was just the way that you came down with the ball after like all the contact in the air and stuff like that. But definitely a pretty cool moment. And I've started to ask this question to more and more football players and even some basketball players that we talk to on the show, because I think it gives the audience a perspective of what it's really like being a college football player, and really like taking it to the next level. But if I mean, without exposing anything, obviously, but if you were an opposing team's defense that was matching up against you in the week ahead, what would you put what would you write down on your own scouting report, and stuff that you would say you do better, and stuff that you think opposing defenses maybe aren't ready for and you could catch them off guard with and stuff like that?
Um, yeah. So I guess for me, a lot of like catch technique where the safety's kind of playing. I know I go against a lot of safeties, so probably where the safety's sitting at like 8 yards and just flat footed, not really moving, pedaling off the snap. That was something I struggled with, like when I first got into college, because I had really never seen that coverage before. North Dakota State was like the first team that did that to me, and it was just something new and kind of caught me off guard, to be honest, because I wasn't really expecting to go in that soon in the season. But yeah, something I had to adjust with, and I feel like now when teams try to show me different looks, I feel like I'm pretty prepared for a lot of things that teams throw at me. So I'm not really sure if there's too many things that I would say are a weakness right now.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I'm always prepared for whatever, and that's something I take pride in. Just how I play the game of football. Expect the unexpected and always be ready for mid game adjustments, mid play adjustments, post snap. That's something I've been working on, every year. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And not only, I know we talked about your connection with Ryan O'Connor this year, just being a new quarterback, but Coach Carty just being, I mean, you've been at Delaware longer than he has. So him being a newer coach, how has it been for you and the wide receiver coach, Terrence Archer, kind of just getting adjusted not only to playing with a new season with you, getting more targets and stuff, but also just you and him being able to click on the offensive side of the ball and know what each other is best at and communicating and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I think those are two tremendous people that have been, brought into my life, and I'm, thankful for them. Um, but yeah, when like Coach Carty first got here, it was, like I feel like not only myself but the entire team was kind of re-auditioning, to prove themselves. So everyone was a clean slate. Yeah, some people were, more known than others. A guy like Thyrick and Nolan were kind of, known, but like a guy like me, I was kind of like a role player. Um, and they had just brought in a couple transfer receivers, so I was, kind of in with them, and I had to prove myself. So, my dad, I kind of just, even still to this day, I still think about what my dad told me when I was first going into college was, make it hard for the coaches to keep me off the field. And when they first got here in spring ball, that was something I, every day I have a little calendar over there, and I write stuff on it. Just, when I first wake up, that's the first thing I look at. Um, and that's what I wrote down, make it hard for them to keep me off the field. And every single day I didn't take a rep off. And I treated it like it was, going to be my last snap, every snap. And, I feel like that, impressed Coach Carty, impressed Coach Archer. And, I mean, I actually talked about it with Coach Archer after last season. Like they were just kind of saying, like, yeah, um, not necessarily they gambled with me, but they were just kind of hoping that, I panned out and I happened to have a solid season last year. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know we talked about the atmosphere at Penn State, but if you had to pick any of the games you've participated in with the Blue Hens at the Tub, is there a certain game that sticks out to you as like a kind of just a core memory of but at home in Delaware?
North Dakota State, my freshman year, hands down. I think that was probably the most people I've ever seen in the tub. And then the fact that we were playing like Trey Lance and Christian Watson, I think Jabril Cox was on defense at the time. And I'm pretty sure all three of those guys are in the NFL right now. So yeah, that was probably the craziest atmosphere. I think we blocked a punt to start the game. I think they went 3-and-out, blocked a punt, and we went up 2-0, and that's probably the loudest I've ever heard that stadium in my 5 years.
That's awesome. Yeah. And just looking ahead at the rest of the season, I mean, you guys, again, you're going to play a lot more in conference teams. But are there any personal, I mean, I know obviously team goals are probably, going as far as you possibly can. But are there any personal goals or things that maybe you just want to get better on as the season continues and as the season goes on?
Um, I mean, not necessarily. I kind of think of certain goals. Like I feel like 1,000 yards would be cool to have. First team all conference. But to be honest, like I'm to the point in my career where I feel like I've done everything that I wanted to do as a football player and as an athlete to where like now I'm kind of doing things like for like my friends and my family. Like they're the ones that kind of benefit from, the things that I'm doing. And it makes like seeing them happy makes me happy. So, the better I play, the happier they are and the happier I am. So, yeah, I would just say that, seeing, my friends and family happy and them being proud of me is probably the most important thing for me right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's all I have for you, Jourdan. I appreciate you for coming on the show. Make sure you guys go check out all of his socials down below. They'll all be linked. Go give him a follow. But I'm doing photography and videography, I think on October 7th against Duquesne for that game. So I'm excited to see you guys play again. And obviously another great game against New Hampshire last week. But I appreciate you for coming on the show, man.
Oh no, for sure. I appreciate you for having me, man. Thank you so much.